Hello! For today's quick and easy tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to make this fabulous bath rack. As usual, the cutting list is in the description box below, so let's get started. So I've given a cutting list for this piece, but before you start do just check that the width of the side piece, which I've put down as 58mm long, does actually fit across your bath. So that will go across there, bring that in a bit, across there like that. And then the other measurement you want to check, I'm going to cut along there 7mm, and then we're going to shape it. So we're going to cut out a little corner bit down here of 7mm, helps if I'm on camera. So halfway along we're going to cut and come in the 7mm. So check as well that that's going to be enough, or it might be too much. So you can adjust that little corner cutout if you want to, and that's just so that the rack will actually sit down into the bath. And then I've called those end bits the soap racks, and then we'll have those as the sort of supports that it will sit on. And I actually took the measurements from one that I found for sale online, and that did actually fit the bath, so that should be a 12 scale measurement, but do just check just in case you spend all that time making it and then it doesn't fit properly. So we're going to begin shaping those side pieces, and I've done my first one already. So turn the piece lengthways like that and begin by making a little pencil mark in the centre of the narrow end. So at 3mm, 1/8 of an inch. Do that at both ends. And then turn it back the right way. I'm going to come along what will become the bottom edge by 7mm. And that is 9/32 of an inch. Again, do that at both ends of the piece like that, and then sort of join those up. And that's the piece we're going to cut out. So as always, when you're cutting a section out, always cut along the line that's against the grain of the wood. So my grain runs along the long edge, so we want to cut that way first. So just with the tip of your knife, do a little cut. And then cut along the long edge. Remove that section. Same at the other end. My finger's in the way there. It's trouble when you're working on such small pieces. Stick that out like that. And then, just because that looks a bit square, I'm just going to sort of shape that little bottom corner bit there. So just bring in a piece of fine grade and just sort of sand over at a 45-degree angle. We want to keep a bit of a straight bottom edge because we've got to put our strips along there. So just round it over, make it look a little bit nicer. And the same there. Looks a bit nicer, and you can do that with those sort of handle supports as well, but just really gently because again we want to keep that straight bottom edge. See what a difference it makes. It turns it from just a sort of unfinished piece of wood into something a little bit more detailed. Looks like you spent a little bit more time on it. So do that with both pieces. So now cut your little soap racks, and then we're just going to use the back of the craft knife blade just to score some grooves along there. And you just want to go really lightly because the back of the blade could cut through this thin wood. So just do some really light scores on there. Just getting them as even as you can, but don't worry too much if they're not. Like that. And then you want to now measure along this bottom part for the 1.5mm strip. and I've said 43mm in the cutting list because that's what mine measures, but if you've cut that slightly differently or sanded a little bit more, that will affect that measurement. So do just measure along there, so from your sort of cutouts along to there, and then you want to cut 2 pieces of strip to that length. I've got a little pot here. One and 2. Put that back in the box, and we can now start gluing it together. So begin by gluing your strip along that bottom edge, and we'll do that on both sides. Glue starting to dry up a bit there. Make sure there's no sanding dust. So glue that right along that bottom edge. You can sort of stand it like that as well to make sure you've got a flat bottom. Like that. And do the same with the other one. So they will face inwards like that to make up the sides of the rack. And we're now going to attach the soap dishes, and they're going to sit so that the longer edge is from side to side. So the longer edge of those will go across there like that. So apply glue to the shorter edge. Lay that down, and then we're going to just attach that along that first part of that, not so much handle, but support, I suppose, and so that you're flush along that top. In fact, it might make sense just to angle it down a tiny bit. And because this wood is so thin, mine is sort of starting to curl a bit. So be really gentle with it, but just try and straighten it out as you're gluing it into place. So I've just angled it down very slightly. Same at the other end. And it doesn't matter if you just want to put them on there straight, it's not going to be that noticeable. I just thought this way the water will run into the rack and then through the little slats that we're going to make, or bottom strips I've called them in the cutting list. So again, just angled that one a little bit, and that worked a little bit better because the wood wasn't trying to curl. But you see what I mean, but you can just leave them straight across there if you wanted to. And then if you put a little bit more glue along those ends, and then just attach that other side, making sure that you're sort of flush at each end. That's what will keep our rack square. I really like the look of that. So I'm pressing it flat against the work surface as well and pressing it together. That's quite good. So now what we're going to do is cut those little bottom strips that we're then going to drop in there. And I haven't yet put how many we need, so I'll sort of work that out as we go along. But what we'll do is we'll start in the middle and then work outwards like that so that they look even. But again, it's not going to matter that much if they're not perfectly even. With something this small, you sort of just get the idea, you know, of how they're meant to look. So cut some 2mm strips. And if you wanted to do this with the 1.5 strip, you could, but I just thought it might look a little bit too bulky. So I think the 0.8 would work better, but if you feel that you'd rather use the strip, then do that. that edge off a bit. And these should be 9mm long as well, or 3/8 of an inch. Try to cut with my tweezers then. So I've cut 11 there, and I think that will be enough. If not, I can just cut a couple more. And like I said, I'm going to start in the middle. So if you line it up with some lines on your cutting mat and have one going right down the middle. And there's no need to measure with tiny things like this, just sort of do it by eye. And then start with your first one in the middle. And I'm going to just first of all try just put in a little bit of glue on each end of the strip, if I can even hold it. I was just thinking I need a little bit more glue actually, that's dried out a bit. Put a bit more on my card. This bottle is getting quite empty, so it takes a while to filter down now. That'll be enough. Okay, but if I can't sort of keep hold of them with the tweezers, then I'll dot a little bit on the strips inside. Let's have a go. And I just didn't want to put it inside because I didn't want too much sort of left in between the strips. So just sort of judge by eye as well that they're straight. I know I'm in the way again, but I'll pick that up and show you. So first one in the centre there, and then just sort of work to each side. I don't need to keep it on the lines now really. Just leave a little bit of a hair's width gap between them. And drop your next one in. Again, just judge by eye that you're leaving the same amount, but again, at this sort of tiny little scale, you can't really see, and you certainly won't when it's in place on your bath. Like that. So just work your way all the way along. Like that. So that 11 worked out really nicely. And then what you can do is just use a piece of fine grade sandpaper and just sand off any little rough edges. So I've just sort of gone along each edge of each side at a 45-degree angle like that. Not really to round them over, but just to get rid of any little splinters you can see there. Do that at each side. And just any little bits you can see, just to really tidy it up and give it that sort of finishing touch. There's a bit of glue sticking in there, so let's see if I can get that out with the tweezers. And there is the completed bath rack. I really hope you've enjoyed today's quick and easy tutorial. If you have a go at making this piece, please do share your photos in my Facebook group, Little Bits and Pieces by You. But that's it for today, so I'll see you again soon. Take care, bye.